The lighting is all the way up. Okay, that's brighter. Peace, Maya. I think that's how you pronounce your name, Maya. Maya's Moon. Thank you for joining. Just trying to give it a minute or so to allow people to join in on the live chat. Capricorn Sun, Scorpio Moon, Aquarius Rising. Beautiful. That is Earth, water, and air. I always like to look at the elements in people's charts and their sun, moon, and ascendant. What elements that you are working with. Um, I think that really plays a part in the different manifestations of our personality. So if you have, all water, if you have fire, earth, and air, and this also contributes to our magnetism. It contributes to our ability to, manifest in our reality when we have these elements in our chart, grounding energy. Let me. Okay, peace, Sade. Scorpio moon, Scorpio and Pluto, Aries rising. That's good. When I was 20, I really wish I was aware, uh, of a lot of this knowledge when I was 20, because I couldn't wait till I got into my 30s. Like I felt I was gonna be okay if I could make it to my 30s. Because when I was in my early 20s, child, Aries Sun, Scorpio Moon, and Capricorn Rising. That's wonderful. Thank you guys for tuning in. So I'll go ahead and start the video, and I'm sure you guys saw the last one on initiation into shadow work, and why this is so important for many of you, because it can be a struggle. Obviously, if you don't know who you are, you don't know what's happening within you, and you may want to cut off that part of yourself that is very useful in the world today. So we need more people who have um, the energies that are associated with Pluto to kind of step up and see that it's gifts, and there's um, I don't want to use the word positive, but there are gifts that you have that come as a result of some of your most challenging placements. Because before we leave this planet, we're intended to really fine tune the parts of ourselves that have been the greatest challenge for us, and then you see just how beautiful these aspects can be, even if they're squares and oppositions and hard aspects. These are the placements, aspects that really make for the some of the greatest people. Um, when things are too easy for us, we tend to not, we don't push ourselves enough. We don't allow our full potential to manifest because things are so easy. We just, get by. But when you've gone through struggle, when you're the underdog, when you've been the black sheep of the family, when you're the outcast, when you're the weirdo, when you're all of these other things, um, it's a lot that you work through, that once you do finally come into your own and you see, your potential, like your gifts and your insights and everything you've gained from all of your challenges and hardships, then you're an empowered being. And that's a wonderful thing. So this is actually why I'm doing this initiation into shadow work, is first to empower you all, um, to help you to accept yourself, because a lot of us, myself included, went through a period where I did not accept myself, and also so that you can unlock your gifts. So just getting started, everyone should know that this is intended to empower you. So some of the things that I will mention, as I always say, is uncomfortable as some of the things may be that you may hear that you know is true about yourself. You don't have to accept that part of you as being, um, like the bad seed, or the bad part of you. It's intended to for you to learn about yourself and then be empowered through that knowledge. So before I get further into it, there was a question someone had asked in the last video about. Sorry about all the traffic in the background. Um, Someone had asked a question about which is more intense as it pertained to placements, like if you have Pluto in the eighth house, or if you have your moon square Pluto, or if you have Scorpio in the 12th house conjunct. It's hard to say what is more intense. I don't necessarily think that there's a such thing as, certain aspects being more intense than others, because it would depend. And everything is not going to be outwardly displayed. When it comes to Pluto, there are a lot of things that are hidden. So someone could be dealing with a lot of intense energies within themselves, and the people around them may not be aware of it. In which case, someone can even seem relatively normal, but inside they could be dealing with a lot of delusions. They could be dealing with what would be diagnosed by medical professionals as schizophrenia. They could be dealing with hidden fixations and hidden obsessions. So, it's difficult to say what's more intense, or this placement is, the most dangerous, or this placement is the most craziest of Pluto. It's not necessarily about that. It's just really you assessing yourself and seeing where you have like an Achilles heel when it comes to your that Plutonian energy. Where does it feel like a weak spot for you? Whether you are, Scorpio with Aries, and you have to deal with a lot of impulsiveness and reactive, tendencies. So for someone who has that Scorpio and Aries energy, that's intense for them. And for other people to have to deal with that person's impulsiveness and reactiveness, it's intense for family. So it's just one of those things. It's intense for anybody who has a lot of Plutonian energy in their natal chart. It can be very, very difficult to deal with that, and to um, just find ways to live your life without reacting to the transits as they happen in your natal chart. So let's say, for example, there's a Pluto transit happening in your uh, first house. So you may experience some type of death of your identity, and that could be a very intense time in your life. So your whole life may not have felt ridden by Plutonian, may not have felt a lot of Plutonian effects in your life before, but when it transits your first house, which has to do with your identity, and all of a sudden you go through this crises associated with your identity, or maybe you've been exposed, in a public way, or maybe you've had some type of, just something to do with yourself where that had to be broken down, then that is going to be a very intense transit for you. And you may not know how to recuperate from that. It could take months or years after that transit before you really start to feel confident in the new person that you've become, as Pluto has destroyed the old you. So these transits affect people in different ways, which is why the study of astrology is so interesting and profound and complex. It's like a never ending study. So I really value how astrology has helped people understand who they are and help people to gain a knowledge of self. So that's what it's about, is being empowered, by the knowledge you gain about yourself and looking at your natal chart. And then, of course, numerology plays a part. If those of you who study numerology, your personal charts, what personal year it is for you, and you live your life and make decisions based off of that science. So that's commendable if you are able to really make things happen for you, using these sciences, and you're not swept away by it. So you have a healthy balance, and kind of forecasting your year, your plans, your relationships, and so forth. Um, Someone has Pluto in the first house, constant death. Yeah, it is. It is. It's always a constant reconfiguring, of the self. just let go of your job. And there's something new is going to come. There's always going to be a new door opening, a new opportunity to come your way. If you've experienced loss, whether it's, loss in a relationship, losing your job, relocating, change. So change can be difficult, but a lot of times it opens up new doors for us and gives us new opportunities. One of the things I wanted to touch on, and this isn't going to apply to all of you, these are somewhat in more extreme cases, um, where Pluto can have a very negative impact on your life if you have hard aspects in your natal chart. So I mentioned delusions, I mentioned schizophrenia. I also wanted to make mention of exposure to death. I have a friend who has uh, Pluto in her eighth house, and I actually have two female friends, and they've both witnessed death in ways that the average person doesn't really encounter these scenarios. But for one of them, she witnessed a car accident right when it happened, so she was like right there on the scene to try to help the person who would later go on to pass transition into death. But it was shocking for her, and she'd had two other experiences where it was like she didn't anticipate having to be right there in the front lines of death, seeing death or witnessing death. So Pluto can, in some cases, expose us to death. And for some people, they turn this into a profession where they get into working in the medical field or being first responders, working in crime scene investigations and things like that. So in some cases, when we maybe even have a fixation or an obsession with something as taboo as death, it can be trans transferred into a more wholesome practice where you're able to serve others or contribute to others in some way, even with a very uncomfortable interest like death. So this is what people need to learn in order to be empowered. Because if you think that, man, if I tell my, or if, for example, you like to watch things like the first 48, or people doing autopsies, or just things that the average person may find disturbing, this could be something that Pluto is introducing you to. And instead of allowing that fixation to be negative or perverted, or you seeking out to do something to someone else or cause harm to someone else, you can actually cleanse yourself of um, negative Plutonian influences and pursue a path where you're actually working alongside of others and people who deal with death, but it's in a more healthier, wholesome way, if that makes sense. So for some of you, if it has to do with you're a person who likes to manipulate people, you don't want to admit that. But let's say you're someone who's always kind of unconsciously manipulative. You manipulate people, you like to get into people's head, you like to try to read people's thoughts, you're a bit of a trickster. This is a negative manifestation of that Plutonian energy. But once you cleanse yourself, and I'll talk about detox before you get into shadow work, the need to detox. But once you cleanse yourself, you can then take that intention that you have and turn it into something more useful, like working in detective or police work, being someone who interrogates people, being someone who um, it can investigate situations and get to the bottom of situations. And Pluto can be a benefit in your life in that respect, where you have keen senses and you listen to people's intentions and you can tell when people are lying. So there's always a flip side to our intentions, as dark or negative of some people's intentions can be. There can be, it could always be transcended or reversed in a sense. So this is going to come once you've kind of detoxed and cleansed yourself, purified your heart. This is a process, so that when you go to help other people and you start getting into shadow work and talking to other people, or just even assessing yourself, you can my phone made me lose my train of thought. Yeah, you can do it from a pure heart with pure intentions. It's not going to be that manipulation. It's not going to be based on, some type of corruption or ill will, or, something that can cause harm to another person or to yourself. So it's about refining and purifying the heart. Before you do shadow work, it's like don't set yourself up to be consumed by this Plutonian energy if you yourself, your heart is not in the right place. So when we assess ourselves and we're truthful with ourselves and we're real with ourselves and we can admit when there are some things that need to be adjusted, refined, and worked on, even when it comes to our attitudes and dealing with our family, dealing with our coworkers, dealing with, just the outside world. So this is something that's, it's key. It's key in looking at your heart, because from the heart is where a lot of our intentions come from. From the heart is where a lot of our words, come from when we say things to other people. Even when we try to take it back and, renege on it and try and say that's not what we meant. When we say things, a lot of times it's coming from the heart in order to help us see our own heart, our own intentions. That, yeah, you did mean to say it. Maybe you don't want to admit that, or you're even frightened by the thought that you said something, burnt somebody else with your words, cut somebody else with your words, but it came from somewhere. So this is the self analysis that can be a bit uncomfortable, but it's a necessary part of the healing process for the self. It's also a necessary part of our work, if you're going to get into working with other people. Um, so let me see. Someone says, love first 48 and homicide hunter. And if things like that don't bother you, like me personally, I can't watch shows like the first 48. I don't like to watch the news. I don't like to hear about these things because it'll kind of sit with me for too long, and I'll keep thinking about it. I'll keep thinking about the victim or the victim's family, and it'll just be on my energy for too long. So I personally can't watch it, but I know that there are some people who can engage in that and indulge in those things. So that's why I say there may be a work that you can do that is in alignment with your interests in that. As long as it's, for you, if it's not like a fixation or an obsession with it, and it's unhealthy in a way, where you kind of feed off of it. And I'll again talk about that when I get into detoxing, because when people have parasites within the body, usually we're eating to feed a parasite. We think we're craving sugar, we think we're craving certain things, but in essence, we're feeding something else. So this is when, that self-analysis is going to come in. What am I feeding when I watch this? What am I feeding when I do this? So I'm not knocking anyone who has an interest in these shows. Obviously, they're on TV because hundreds of thousands of people may resonate with them or are interested in watching them. But when you are looking at yourself, find out what's being fed when you watch it. Is it just your interest in the people who are doing this work of investigating and getting down to the truth, or are you just fascinated by other aspects in the show that could be potentially, fueling some hidden thing in you, like something that's a little more dark, could be being fed by what you're watching, what you're taking in. So something to think about there. And yeah, the toughest thing is dealing with sexual energy. That is a very, with sexual energy, it's complicated for a lot of people because they're not always sure where their blockages come from when it comes to their sexual energy. If it's something that is pathological, that has kind of been passed down through the family, or they weren't properly kind of introduced into sex. So they have blockages associated with that, abuses associated with that, or because Pluto deals with sex and it's, taboo for some people, they may have certain desires that they're not sure how to have those desires fulfilled or met, for fear that others may, be turned off by that, by whatever those desires may be. Or you may be hypersexual. You may just have a very, very high sex drive where you constantly want to engage in sex for what it can do for you emotionally, what it does for you mentally, what it does for you psychologically. For some people, sex is healing, and for others, it's just a way for them to get out their excess of energy. When you go through your day and you have a lot of pent up energy or frustration or anger from dealing with, I don't know, your boss, dealing with people at work. Some people may come home and indulge in pornography or just want to have sex, or can even be addicted to sex because it's an outlet or release for them. And so you may be trying to find ways to um, gain a greater sense of self mastery over your sexual energy, because with sexual energy, you keep in mind that we could be exhausting and really wasting, in a sense, a lot of our sexual energy if we don't have intentions behind it, if we don't have love behind it, whether it's love for self or love for our partner or whatever, it can just become like a habitual, even an addiction, just something we're doing habitually, like as a release. So something to think about as you're assessing yourself once again, is your sexuality and your intentions behind your sexual pursuits. When you're looking for a partner, is there something specific that you're drawn to when it comes to the sexual nature of a person? Are you looking for someone that you can even abuse, or um, someone who's willing to try new things with you, or so forth? But obviously, when it comes to sex and other people, it could be it could be a very limiting experience, because we should be elevating above just our base desires. And with that Scorpio energy, it's hard to find people who are elevating above the lower chakras, and therefore we have these kind of very limiting sexual experiences. That the physical interaction is there, but as far as the emotional stimulation, the mental stimulation, the spiritual stimulation that Scorpio needs, you may feel disappointed and let down, one encounter after another, or it could result in you altogether wanting to be, celibate. I don't want to deal with people. I can't get the fulfillment I need. I can't get the spiritual connection I need out of people. So I'd rather not even have sex. I'd rather not even look for a partner. I just don't want to deal with people, or I'm tired of being, let down in my relationships when I'm ready to take it to the next level and my partner isn't, or doesn't know how to carry us there, carry me there. So there could be a lot of pressure you're putting on your partner to meet some type of sexual need that you have, and they may not be on that level, because Scorpio, you're so intense and so deep. And not all of you are Scorpios. I know some of you have certain Pluto aspects that are, create a strong energy in your chart, Plutonian energy in your chart. So, when it comes to your sexual needs, assess that, and, seek to understand it, so that you're not operating in ignorance, and haphazardly pursuing sexual passions, and then getting burned and as a result of that. Maya, I ain't even fooling with you right now. She said, not popping it until they make my womb sing. Okay, well, we need to have that mind body connection, and that's very real. It's not, mind body is not just, our health and yoga. Mind body has to do with our wombs and our reproductive organs as well. So you do need to have a connection there. And if your womb is not resonating with someone, and you're not feeling like they're in tune with that, then yeah, chances are you will be let down in your sexual experience. Reading people's thoughts. And some of you may, read people's thoughts not intentionally. I know that is very much a Scorpio thing, where you don't intend to dig into people's thoughts and minds, but it's just like you pick up on it. Or I know there's been moments where I've been talking to people and I'm just staring at them, listening to them, and they will look away, almost as if they feel that I'm reading their thoughts, or I'm looking too much into them. And, I would never want to infringe on a person's, thoughts and things like that without their consent or knowing. But there are times where I pick up on people's thoughts, and I may say something and they may wonder how I knew that. But it wasn't for me to let them know I was reading their thoughts. It's just because it crossed my mind that this is what they must be thinking, or what they must, maybe what they're trying to say. And I'll say it. And then they may feel uncomfortable at the thought that I knew what they were thinking. So it can make people be, feel a bit intimidated by that. So I understand for some of you who do read people's thoughts unintentionally, and I know that some of you Scorpios read people's thoughts because you like to have power over people. You like to have that power over people, and to control a conversation, or to control your environment, because Scorpio likes to be in control and likes to feel in control. So, when it comes to shadow work, you don't want to turn people off by being too forthright, or too imposing. With Scorpio, you don't even have to do that. You don't have to impose on people, because they're going to naturally begin to reveal things to you, because that's just the nature of who you are, your energy. It invites people to reveal things about themselves that maybe to anybody else they wouldn't have done that. So as they feel a bit more comfortable with you, or they even feel that you can, touch certain parts of them or stimulate certain parts of them, they may open up to you anyway. So you don't even necessarily have to do a whole lot of prying and spying into their soul for them to reveal. So as you learn more about yourself and you get into shadow work and talking to people or dealing with people, family, friends, whomever, you may work in a prison, you may work at a hospital, you may do some profession where you deal with people and talk to people. Allow people to open up to you on their own. And for those who do have difficulty doing that, you'll learn a way to kind of, extract what you need from them without imposing too much. So it's just about finesse, not being too aggressive with people's thoughts and people's emotions. Yes, most of you have trust issues. that that is a challenge we all face, is not trusting people. And even family, even people closest to you. You may not trust your own mom, your own dad, your own brother. There are people who are very close to you that you may not trust. And I want to say that's okay, because you have the right to be cautious about who you let in, because once you've been wounded, it can linger. It can stick to you for a long time. Somebody hurt you and you just won't let it go. And for relationships to come, you can revisit that time that you were betrayed, or you were hurt, or you were wounded, and it can keep resurfacing. So this is about you knowing yourself enough to know what your boundaries are, and you know yourself enough to know when to pull away from a relationship before you get wounded, before you get hurt. Because sometimes your curiosity about a person can put you in a position where you'll expose yourself to betrayal. You will expose yourself to getting disappointed or getting hurt, because that's just the nature of you're wanting to discover yourself through relationships. So in some cases, you're willing to push the envelope, even if you know a relationship isn't good for you. That's a part of control. I want to control this, so I'll leave when I'm ready to leave. I'll exit the relationship when I'm ready to exit the relationship. No, sometimes you need to leave the relationship, even if it's with your parents. You may need to step away from the relationship for some time before you get disappointed, or you get hurt by them, or you hurt your family member, and your attitude or your response. So if you're Scorpio and Aries, and you know how fiery or reactive you can be, you don't have to wait for it to escalate to that point. This is you being sensible. You're no longer living in a state of ignorance where you don't know your triggers anymore. You know your triggers. So if I know what triggers me, let me be sensible and let me pull away now. Let me step back out of the situation now, so that I'm not inflicting harm on anyone or doing something that, I'll later regret. And I think I made mention of that in another video. But I wanted to share something really cool with you guys. On the whiteboard, I'm gonna put my board up. For some of you who are interested in numerology, I think you'll find it really fascinating if you can stick through to the end of the video. And I did want to make mention about your shadow. Your shadow follows you. You don't follow your shadow. So there are things you need to know about yourself to become more empowered. And once you become aware of that, that's you choosing to no longer follow your shadow, but for you to take the lead in your life, for you to be in a position of authority over your life. So I'm not going to keep focusing on the hard aspects, or the negative side of my personality, and continue to live and act out those things. That's me following my shadow. When you're doing shadow work, this is you taking control, having a sense of self-control, having self-mastery over yourself, over base desires, over your reactions, over your environment, because you can be so intuitive and so perceptive, but yet at times your own shadow can sabotage moments. Your own shadow can push people away. Your own shadow can, cut people off and be a bit um, volatile and even violent at times. So this is when, those negative aspects manifest through our ignorance. Knowledge is power. So when you're no longer ignorant, then you can choose not to allow the shadow to overshadow you. the true essence of you, your pure heart. Your shadow shouldn't consume you, right? So this is a important part of being initiated. You've already been initiated into it, but now you have to actually do the work. So in doing the work, gaining self-control, gaining self-mastery, having mastery over even your inner thoughts. So for some of you, you may have an inner dialogue going on, and that inner dialogue can be telling you the most negative things about yourself, about another person. As somebody mentioned, I don't trust people, I don't trust anybody else. If you have told yourself, I don't trust other people, when you sit down and talk to somebody or you're meeting somebody for the first time, your mind can start to contrive all of these scenarios that may or may not even be true. And you can actually feed into that. So this is when your shadow can start to consume you, and you're thinking about this person in the most negative light, thinking about, this person's lying to me, or this person's intentions are this way, or you can have all of this negativity going on, and it may not even be true, may not even be a valid observation of the situation. So this is where you have to have a balanced perspective in things, and not allowing the part of you that doesn't trust, or is bent on people are liars, or people are out to get me, or people have betrayed me, people have abandoned me in the past, or I've had this happen. Why do we keep attracting that? Why do we keep attracting those types of people? Why do we keep attracting these types of situations and relationships? Why? Because a part of you is still consumed by that. Your own shadow is feeding off of these types of people. And you may say, I hate, being this way. I hate attracting these kind of people. I hate having to deal with this. So you got to cleanse yourself of that mentality and establish a balance, and you'll start to attract more harmonious relationships. It's real. It's very real. It's a detox in a way. You're not feeding that parasitic energy that is feeding off of your fears about other people and your fears about, experiences. Venus sextile Pluto aspect. And I did make mention too in I think it's the description, where, if you guys have certain aspects that you just want to go over, you have some questions about or inquiries about, you can email me, and it could be a more personal conversation, or we can build on it a little bit more in depth, versus here. But yeah, Venus sextile Pluto aspect. Um, Fatbard. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Fatbard. Well, it could play out in a host of ways, but Venus sextiling Pluto, I would imagine you may attract a lot of lovers and admirers with this aspect, and you can be highly sensual. You could be very attractive just sexually. You could have a very strong sexual attraction. It would depend on what house that this aspect, this placement is. Venus sextile Pluto, what house it's in, will determine how it will manifest in your life. But for the most part, you just need to be careful of you need to be careful of too many partners, too many love affairs. You could possibly tend to be a bit um, too open perhaps with your sexuality, because Pluto is can be a bit inviting of the taboo, and Venus is about, sensuality and beauty, and just kind of, projecting that. And these two planetary bodies in sextile with each other can just invite in a lot of admirers, and can give you um, a very intense aura about you. If you're man or woman, it can give you a very intense aura, and so that attraction can sometimes even have people be jealous of you and hate on you because of that intensity you bring, and just how much attention that you draw. You can attract some people who just envy you in a way. So email me, and we can find out more about, where that placement is for you. um, so someone mentioned being obsessed with the afterlife, and that's what I was talking about. That some of you may have certain obsessions are fixations, because that's what Pluto deals with, is obsessions, is fixations. But you can take that obsession of a thing the same way. Let's say Serena Williams, she's a pro athlete, she's a tennis player, she's obsessed with the sport. This is why she does the sport. This is why she goes for that win again and again and again. She's obsessed with it. But she's praised for her obsession. She's honored. She's rewarded for her obsession. But for some of us, if I say, hey, I have an obsession with the afterlife, or an obsession with death, or I even find fascination in um, you know, like I mentioned, crimes. I love indulging in crimes, and seeing how these crimes play out. That obsession can be turned into something more wholesome, more positive, a healthier outlet when you pursue a career path, when you can pursue a spiritual path in alignment with that obsession. We don't have these obsessions for just for no reason. You can find out what thing that really stimulates you and that you're a bit obsessed about. So if it has to do with the afterlife, you may find that you can get into a work where you talk to people who's lost loved ones, somebody who's lost a loved one and they're devastated by it, and they're plagued by the fact that they lost a family member. You can come along and shed some light on, a different perspective on the afterlife that brings them comfort, that makes them feel, renewed. Or you yourself can, shed light into, or find out more, do more research, find out more knowledge about the afterlife. As we're moving into a new age, people are becoming more and more open to that it's not just about heaven and hell. People want to know what happens when we die. So utilize these interests that you have and see in what way can I put this into a practice that is useful, that in some way I can contribute to humanity, to society, to my family. And it doesn't have to be something you are embarrassed about or you tuck away because no one else in your family is interested in the afterlife or interested in death, but you are. So instead of condemning yourself for your interest in these things, you can turn it into something useful. All right, so let me share with you guys while you're in the chat there. Someone had asked in the last video, just thinking, she asked me if I think religion plays a role in how I think about things, because a few times I had mentioned prayer. And I know some people don't. Uh, use the term prayer. They feel like you're begging God or praying to some external entity. But I want to share a little secret with you all. And I'm going to put up this whiteboard and show you why I use that term, and how you can actually tap into this to manifest, whether you are manifesting um, something, or you're manifesting a new perspective, if you're manifesting protection for yourself. And if you feel under psychic attack, when I had my son, my youngest son, he's a Scorpio moon. He has Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio, and then he has Scorpio in the 12th house. Like, he just, Pluto in the 12th house. Like, he's got a lot of energy. When I was holding him when he was a baby, he used to have these dreams, I guess, and he would wake up crying, just like terrified. So I would hold him all hours through the night. I would walk through the house holding him, and I would be praying over him, and I would be speaking into his ear and over his energy, because I didn't know what was going on or why he was having these, like, these like night terrors and stuff. So it was very comforting to him. And if you have a pen and paper, you guys can write this down. So the word manifest, we're going to look at the numerology behind this, because we all use this word so often, to manifest, to bring something into existence. So the numerology behind this is, let's see, 4, 1, 5, 9, 6, 5, 1, 2. So 9 and 9 is 18, 19 plus 6 is 15, 20, 22, 23. Actually, it'll be so much easier if I use my notes. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna write all the words down. All right, so I want you to write down manifest, the word magic. This is 4, 1, 7, 9, and 3. That is 33. Also, the word fulfill. And there's another word, desire. I'm going to switch markers. So basically, all of these words I'm going to show you, they equate to 33. 33 is a number of manifestation. It's a number associated with our third dimensional plane. As I mentioned in another video, if you guys watched it, that 6 is associated with the physical plane. To bring something down from the higher realm to the lower is 6, and to elevate something is associated with the 9. Is associated with the 9, which is to rise up or to elevate a thing. So, in looking at the number 33, I had mentioned prayer. And at the end of the prayer, we say amen. And amen essentially equates to 33 as well, which means so be it, or to bring something into existence. So let me clear space. I'll put it right here. Okay, so A in numerology, the number A is the first letter, M is the 13th letter, E is the 5th letter, and N is the 14th letter of the alphabet. So if you were to add all these together, 13 and 14, that's 27 plus 5 plus 1, and you get 33. So when we say amen at the end of a prayer, we are essentially saying, so be it. Bring it into existence, make it happen. Let it be. And so it is. Bringing something into existence. It's the same with the word manifest, the same with the word magic, it's the same with the word fulfill, it's the same with the word desire. All of these words equate to 33. So when you pray, whether you call it prayer, whether you call it a mantra, whether you call it affirmations, whether you call it a spell, whatever you choose to call it, when you speak words, you are empowering yourself through word to bring something into existence, to manifest a thing. So when you guys are going through certain spiritual attacks, as you call it, like I feel like I'm under attack, or you feel as if something's happening in your reality that you can't control, you can speak the thing that it is that you want to change, manifest what desire you have that you want to bring into fulfillment or into fruition. So, in sharing this, when I say it, when I pray against negativity, when I pray against or speak against things that are taking place that I don't agree with or I don't doesn't resonate with me, this is my way of um, manifesting my own personal power against that. So, whatever it is I'm speaking, in the case with my son, if I was saying you're protected, you are divinely protected, you are loved, you are here in my arms, you are safe, I can speak certain words that would counteract negative thoughts, negative or fearful or harmful thoughts, dreams, fixations, obsessions, mental instability. All of this you can speak against. So whether you choose to say amen, whether you choose to say, oh, I'm manifesting this, or you choose to use some other form, some other word, you're in essence empowering yourself through your words. This is just one means of healing. This is one means of speaking against things that you don't want to take place in your life. So I know it was a bit confusing at first, and everyone's not into numerology, but you can use gematria, which is just associating a letter, with the number. A is 1, B is 2, 3 is C is 3, and so forth, to see how this all these words equate to 33, as I just showed you in the case with amen. So when you're praying or you're speaking, you have power in your words. Obviously, when someone says something hurtful and damaging to you, it affects you. You feel it. It hurts. And it's the same when someone sends you love, whether they're in your presence or they're 1,000 miles away. Because I've prayed for people, I've sent positive thoughts and words to people out loud. 3 a.m., I could be walking through my hallway and I could be speaking over other people's souls because I know they're going through something. And my intentions and my belief behind what I'm speaking is so powerful and so strong that I see results in that. So when you get into shadow work and people are talking about pain and trauma and negative words that have been spoken to them and hurt and things like that. All of that is being spoken, it's coming out, it's being brought out onto the table. But what are you going to say in response to that? So, this is when you're hearing the dark side, the shadow side of things. Now you're going to counteract or combat those dark thoughts, those negative experiences with something positive, something uplifting, something empowering. So this is what is happening when you guys tune in and you're feeling empowered, or you're feeling, oh, this person understands me. Oh, this person, I resonate with this. You're listening to words. So in essence, your words have power. You can use this knowledge of words to empower yourself. When I say amen, it's not necessarily from the traditional Christian perspective of just saying amen. I know I'm speaking something into existence. I know I'm manifesting something with my words, because there's no coincidence that all of these words equate to 33. It's a science, it's mathematics. So you have to be fully in tune with what it is that you're saying and what it is you're speaking over yourself, over your own soul. So if I'm speaking negatively about myself, and I did this at one point in my life, I was very condemning, like, oh, I hate myself and I'm broke and I'm this and I'm that. I used to say all these negative things about myself because I was ignorant. I didn't understand the power of my own words. And in essence, I would experience the karma of that. Things would manifest in my life where I didn't have any money, or I did feel ugly, or I did feel whatever I was saying about myself. And I realized, wow, my words have power. And some of these things didn't manifest in my life until later on. But in essence, now when I speak about myself, I speak empowering words of myself, about myself, not from an egotistical perspective of just, self-righteousness and feeding my ego in any way. But I realize if I don't say these things about myself, my own internal thoughts will literally tear me apart and will literally force me into a place of depression, and where I want to be isolated from people and just bask in that depression. Like, who wants that? So when you say positive things to yourself, that I'm in a good space, I'm protected, I'm surrounded by your angels, your guides, your ancestors, whatever you refer to, you can speak these things into existence. And in that moment, you can be snapped out of whatever, dense negative cloud is lingering over you. Even if it has to do with your fixations and your obsessions, if you're uncomfortable with always thinking about sex, speak against that. And by saying, you know what, I feel good. I feel good about my environment right now. I'm not desiring to think about, having sex. I'm not desiring these things right now. I'm thinking about whatever. I imagine being in a, I don't know, Cancun or whatever. You can actually speak on what you would rather be thinking about versus giving energy and attention to the thoughts that you don't want to have at that moment. And it could even be negative thoughts about a person. If you realize you're feeling jealous about your ex and their new relationship, and you've been fixated on the thought of that, like your ex enjoying their new partner and how good they're doing, and they're so happy, and you're jealous and you're fixated on it, change those thoughts. You know what, I'm so excited about the relationship that's going to come in my life, that's going to be so much better than the relationship I had before. I'm a new woman, I'm a new person. My heart went through some difficulties, but I feel good about who I'm becoming. Or have that conversation, and I don't care how ridiculous you feel you sound, this is a real alchemy, because you have to believe. Interestingly enough, let me write that word down because I want you guys to know how real this is. Let's look at the word believe. 2 5 3 9 5 4 5. So let's add that up. That's 9 and 8, 17, 18, 19 plus 5 is 24, plus 9 is 33. So you have to believe the thing that you are speaking. This is what empowers it. And I've heard people say, oh, the word lie is in believe. So is veil. You can't see the outcome of everything. In essence, you're believing in something that is unseen. But if you don't believe in the things that you're speaking, it won't manifest. So you can't just speak nonsense, like to just be saying words. You have to actually speak and believe what you're saying has power, believe what you're saying has truth, believe what you're saying is going to come to pass in your life. Believe what you're saying is going to heal you. So when I'm speaking over my children, when I'm speaking over my life, when I'm speaking over other souls, I absolutely 100% believe it, even if it takes me an hour or 2 hours of speaking before the belief really sets in. So I may start off praying, I may start off mentioning the person's name, I may start off just kind of flowing, and then it'll sink in and I really feel the truth behind what I'm saying, even if it hasn't quite come into physical reality. I'm working in the spiritual realm, I'm working in the as above. So if I expect something to manifest, become fulfilled, the magic to happen, if I expect it to happen in the earth plane, the third dimension, the physical realm, I have to speak it in the ethers. I have to speak it in the spiritual. So in doing shadow work, this is why I stopped succumbing to the fear of demonic forces and psychic attacks and people practicing witchcraft. I stopped succumbing to the fear of those things when I was leaving out of Christian Judaism and the religious practices I once took part in. When I was coming out of that, I was so afraid of like all these practices people are into and what people do and how people can attack you and blah, 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 blah. You know what? I realized there's a power in who I am and there's a power in what purpose I have, and that you can't help and heal people if you're going to stay in the safe zone, of like love and light. Sometimes you have to enter into the darkness to retrieve souls that don't want to be there. But in order for you to go into that space, you have to be confident, you have to be empowered, you have to know who you are in order to help and heal people, if that's the path that some of you, choose to take. So in doing that, and I believe in what I'm saying is the same in Christianity, where they may say faith, in some other religious group, they may use another terminology, but in essence, you're practicing magic. It's spell work, it's ritual, it's words that are being spoken. So this is just one of many ways to tap into your power. It's one of many ways to tap into your power through words. And I know everyone's not aware of that. Numbers don't lie. So in showing that, showing the consistency in these words and that they all mean the same thing to manifest the thing. So if you're going to follow this path, you will need to detox, mind body detox. And that mind body detox is going to put you um, in a position where you won't be so susceptible to attacks, because your heart is being purified, your aura is clean. You know what I mean? It's like you people in things and situations won't be attracted to you and stuck on you if you've done the work on yourself, and if there's something going on with you and it's not feeling right, or your relationship is taking a turn for the worst, or your career, doesn't seem to be fulfilling for you. You constantly keep having clashes with the people you work with. Then this is a time for you to step back, assess yourself, and then assess, well, why did I attract this situation? Why did I attract these people in my work environment that seem to be attacking me or not liking me or, criticizing me? Why am I attracting this right now? And how am I going to work through it? So this is giving you an opportunity to gain a sense of self-control and self-mastery over your situation, and not to be a victim to it, because we so often can fall victim to these things, and then we shrink back, or we withdraw from people altogether. But we have to deal with people, in life. So I wanted to share that with you guys, and I had some other random notes on this subject, but I'm gonna browse through some of your comments. And Maya said, I'm over here calculating words. I do that all the time. I'm always calculating words because I'm surprised at the synchronicities that I find in words and how we overlook words. Well, nobody else is seeing this, but in essence, it gives me confirmation about the power behind the work I'm doing. So once I have that confirmation and nobody can take that truth away from me, that hey, this is what it is, then I stand in that authority in what I'm doing and how I speak to people and how powerful words can be, and the belief I place in the things I'm saying. Let me see. So as you move forward and you're dealing with, I know some of you mentioned about people being intimidated by you. Um, let people come to you if it's a matter of you're interested in shadow work and you're just, learning a little bit about your gifts and who you are. You're starting to feel more empowered. Allow people to come to you or to gravitate to you versus you feeling like I walked in a room and people are just put off by me, or people don't approach me, or people don't, like, that's okay. If people are intimidated by you, or people aren't interested in a friendship or a relationship with you, that's fine, because you don't have time for fake friends and fake relationships anyway. So let those individuals just be passersby. But for the true lasting relationships, for the stimulating conversations that you long for the moments of interaction, even within your family, people will come to you. They will be attracted to your energy. They'll be attracted to what you can show them about themselves. And they'll be just drawn to the stimulation, because we need, as human beings, we need that stimulation that goes beyond just the lower base, lower chakras, base desires. Like, anybody can get that stimulation from anywhere. But when it comes to elevating and having those conversations that are of higher consciousness, that deal with our higher magic, not low magic type stuff, but higher magic, and how we can manifest things from the higher realm, the spiritual realm, and ground it into our reality. Those are the kind of conversations and relationships and, future um, partnerships that we really need. We need these types of partnerships moving forward for all of us, because it's support. You need that support. So I really hope that, as we move into shadow work, more videos and conversations on shadow work, that you guys will take into consideration the seriousness of detoxing your mind and your body. So physically detoxing, meaning your eating habits, your environment. If there's things in your environment that you need to get rid of, if there are people in your life you need to get rid of. I don't mean to say it like that, but people in your life you need to disassociate yourself from, because they're toxic people. They only encourage you to do the things that are damaging to yourself and to your soul. Then you need to get rid of those individuals. As I mentioned before, when you have a parasite in the body, or yeast in the body, physical, these things, you will eat and consume things that feed the parasite, that feed that, and it's not a good thing. So if they're physical things that you're involved with, you may be feeding that inner demon, and we don't want to feed our inner demons because they tend to grow. We want to starve that energy that is creating havoc in our lives, so that we can now step into a position of authority over our lower base desires, our inner demons, that they don't control us. In essence, we don't even want to have to deal with that. Those intense negative energies and emotions, or even entities. I'll go as far as to call them entities, because I have a friend in New York. We've been friends for about 6 or 7 years. Beautiful, sweet sister. She has 3 children. She's normal by most standards, but in her mind, there's another personality that gives her instructions and talks to her, and you know interferes with her relationships. And I had at one point stopped talking to her, because I was like, she's schizophrenic. She really believes that there's someone, it's like a real person that isn't real, but she's having these conversations. And so I just stopped judging her, and I said, this is an opportunity for me to learn about people who have these inner, these entities within them that they respond to. By religious standards, we would say it's a possession. Like, what are you possessed by? Who are you talking to? But I've learned a lot about her experience, and how to handle her and talk to her, and not to judge her, and to just really get involved with what she's going through. And it's given me a whole new perspective, versus saying, girl, you need to go see a doctor and get on medication. And it's not like that. It's something very real that she's dealing with. And I've been gradually helping her to manage and cope with this, internal thing that's happening within her. I can't really give it a medical term or whatever, but it's a very real thing. So in going through your detox, you're going to see how you experience more clarity and you allow more space within yourself to listen and to understand who you are, because you've gotten rid of a lot of unnecessary things. Parasites have a consciousness of their own. And so when you have parasites within your body, physical parasites, you can get rid of these things like, with herbs and cutting out certain foods and so forth. But they affect your mood. Medically, you can read about how parasites in the body can make you irritable, can make you have mood swings, can make people, behave a certain way. So it's a very real thing. The mind, detoxing the mind, again, has to do with what things you're feeding into the soul. So, what things you're watching, what things you're tuning into, what books you're reading. If you're not in a if you're not level-headed and have a clear state of mind, then obviously you don't want to read certain material that can fuel or feed delusions, or disassociation with reality. So feeling as if you're something or someone that you're not based on something you read can, create these delusions in our thinking. So it's about having a wholesome balance and, understanding who you are, knowing what's you and what's coming from an external source or even an external person, people planting seeds and thoughts and ideas in your head and you believing them to be true for you, and it may not even be the case. So when you have a good mind body connection and you're clear headed and your body is clean and you're taking in living foods and things like that, this is what also empowers you, because you don't want to be weak, physically and even weak mentally from all the things you've been exposed to, and then think you're going to be in a position to make good decisions for yourself, your family unit, or for even another soul. In the case of someone coming to you for advice or counsel or help. So be responsible about that. If you're getting into shadow work, that is not something to be taken lightly, because I think there was a story in the Bible where these two guys tried to do what Jesus was doing, expelling demons, and they end up running back to town butt naked and beat up or whatever, because they went out to do this work of expelling demons and they weren't prepared. Like, you're not prepared to be doing this. You got to get yourself right. You have to be spiritually grounded and you have to have a good connection with the God within. You have to operate off of love. You have to have a pure heart. And that takes work. I'm barely in a position where I feel, empowered to take on other people's, you know, traumas and demons for the most part. But yet I feel spirit is pushing me in that direction. And so I'm doing the work, I'm doing what I have to do. And I have to trust that I'm, supported and guided in doing so. So we will expound more on shadow work. This video more or less was an introduction to empower many of you and also to encourage you to do a detox, get your energy clean so that you can hear what spirit is directing you to do. And you can also, be set free in a way from um, situations and traumas and things from your past that make you feel like a victim, that you can even heal things from the past by speaking over the past, over an experience. So if you went through something traumatic, now is the time for you to speak forgiveness into that with the power of what I was just showing you about your words, that you can forgive a person, whether they're dead or alive, in your face or 3,000 miles away. You can still speak these things into the ethers, because this is you working in the higher realms and then grounding and manifesting that reassurance and that healing and that forgiveness into your life, even if the other person doesn't participate. It's about your life, you doing what you have to do for your life. Bob Marley, my zodiac sign, I am a Taurus. My rising sign is Capricorn, and my moon sign is Scorpio. So your mom, you said your mom is in your life and your dad is not in your life. I'm sorry, I need some glasses on, y'all. Spink says, when you're looking to heal a part of your heart, for instance, my parents, how would I do that? My mom is in my life, but we have never had the open communication. So, in cases where your parent is, like, let's say like you said, your mom's in your life, but you guys haven't actually had the kind of communication that you need for healing to take place. This is something that you can write about or speak about, pray about, meditate about. You have to put it out there, meaning get it from within you, get it off your heart and put it out there in whatever way feels comfortable for you. If you don't feel comfortable speaking out loud like I do, when there's nobody around, I still speak out loud, but you can even write it, what your intentions are for you and your mother, what your intentions are for healing your relationship with your parents. Put it out there. By putting it into the atmosphere, into the ethers, you'd be surprised what attracts from that. So this is just a part of you putting in the work so that you can bring about a change in your relationship with your parents, but you first have to get it off of your heart and put it out there so that when your mother or opportunity presents itself, you've already taken the first step in opening that door within you. And then a conversation might spark, or you might all of a sudden have the courage to say something you really didn't have the courage to say before. There may be some change or some shift in how you guys communicate because you set your intention on that and you made it known, to the universe, to God, that this is what I want to happen so I can heal, so we can heal. If you don't get the opportunity to speak with your mother directly, you have the conversation with yourself, because this is a part of your personal journey in your relationship with your parents or your mother. And you're assessing it not just in thought, like you're sitting at work and you're thinking about something, or at night you're laying down, you're thinking, but you're actually making it more real by bringing it into physicality. You understand? By, if you're not saying it, but by writing it or doing something more to bring it into physicality, bring it into reality of what change you need to take place. So I do thank you guys for tuning in. If you, I meant to also say, with your detox, um, working with essential oils is a wonderful thing. Working with nature, for some of you who are earthy people, Capricorns, Tauruses, things like that, you may find it very beneficial to utilize nature and, water and these healing elements to go through your process of detoxing. I know, like, if I've witnessed something that was traumatic or heard something on the news, because I don't watch the news, but my mother will play the news sometimes, and I'll hear something and it'll disturb me, or it'll rest on my soul and I'll be bothered by it. So what I'll have to do is spend time, like, actually go outside and spend time just outside and quiet and listening to birds. And that, for me, because I'm Taurus with Capricorn rising, is tranquil. It helps me to release that emotion associated with whatever bad news, negative news I heard. So you may find that useful in working with elements, working with essential oils, working with herbs, getting back to a more um, holistic way of healing. And for some of you, if it's not, you know, detoxing on the physical level, if it's mental, then consider meditation. If it's something you've never done, it could be as simple as you just laying flat in your bed, playing some calming music, laying flat in your bed in silence and just being still for a minute. It could be a new experience for you. 15, 20 minutes can help you to detox some things that could be lingering in your mind and in your psyche, or even bring it to your awareness. Like, you know what? I've really been thinking a lot about this. I've really been, obsessing about that. And you can make the choice in that moment to let it go, to release it, to stop being so fixed on it, or shift your perspective to something new. Exercising, working out, sweating. If you're Aries, Leo, you have Sagittarius, these fire elements with Pluto or Scorpio, you have to do physical things, because Mars and Pluto energy is about action. It's about pain. It could be about, war, conflict, combativeness, argumentativeness. So if you're someone who's always arguing with people, who's always got a rebuttal, who likes to debate and go back and forth, then go do kickboxing. Do some physical activity that is a release for that energy, and you're not always directing it at other people and arguing with other people, fighting and combating with other people. You have to do physical things if you're a fire sign, because it's a sign of, it's a sign to do with action. Same with you water signs. I mentioned that in the video, Scorpio video, about 7 ways to maintain your sanity. So many things you could do working with the water element to calm your emotions. Cancer, if you're very emotional, constantly crying, and you're very sensitive and very vulnerable to other people's energy, you have to do a lot of work daily to maintain balance within yourself with that water element, with your energy. And that's going to be healing for you. That's going to bring you a sense of peace, but it does require work. You can't procrastinate, you can't be lazy about it, you can't expect results in your life if you don't put in the work. And I definitely don't encourage you to get into shadow work if you have a lot of emotional traumas and just a lot of emotional vulnerabilities, because you'll be exposing yourself to other people's ish and put yourself at risk, and it could be dangerous, more or less, to do that. So I didn't talk in this video much about things like self harm, um, abuses, and inflicting harm on yourself or other people. That would be for another video, because some of you have encountered that, where you've inflicted uh, harm on yourself in some way, um, in some way as a punishment, or condemning yourself, or just hating yourself. And if you're getting into shadow work, that's confronting that part of you that wants to destroy you. You have to, in essence, assess that, and figure out why you're being self-destructive. If it's through drugs and through alcohol, why am I doing this? And you know, am I prepared and ready to let go of that mentality to do with self-hate? And that comes with those aspects, as I mentioned, with Pluto and the sun. Pluto squared the sun, Pluto opposite the sun can make you, Pluto may want to destroy the identity. And obviously, many of us associate our physical body with our identity. So when Pluto is trying to destroy an identity, then we will tend to inflict pain or harm ourselves, as a way to destroy, the personality archetype, and the body suffers as a result of it. So yes, another video. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for chiming in on the live chat. Again, you can email me if you have some, other things you just want to share, or you want to build on, or you have something in your natal chart that's, bothering you, or what have you. That's the listening bull at yahoo.com. So I will go ahead and cut the video off here. Thank you guys again. And until next time, peace.